let's try to move on towards the next big thing, which is filtering the data in Tableau. This is very, very important because so far all the graphs that we have created is where we tried taking all the data into consideration while building the view, right? Let's say, for example, if we look at this graph where we were talking about the subcategory wise sales, we were taking all the records in the data into the consideration while building up this view. Or even when we looked at this product wise, order wise, the days to ship, we were looking at all of the orders in the data in order to generate this kind of a report. But what if I don't want to include the entire data at once? What if, I want to filter out the data such that it matches the requirement of the audience, as well as, it is more meaningful to display only an abstracted view of the entire data to the audience. So that is where filtering in Tableau becomes very, very essential. And there are multiple ways using which you can actually use filters in Tableau. You can create filters on categorical variables as well as on the basis of numerical variables. And when we try to implement filters, we will try out both the kind of examples so that you're aware of, how to filter on the basis of categorical variable and how to filter on the basis of a numerical variable, because the dialog boxes that you see or the options that you get for filtering the categorical versus the numerical variables are different. So I'll show you both the examples so that you guys get a clarity on this. I'll show you both the examples so that you get clarity on this. But let's firstly begin with, pulling up some data into the sheet so that we can start filtering the data. And in order to create, some sort of graph, I'm just going to pick up some variable which is having a lot of categories, because what I'll be showing you is how to apply filters on top of other filters. So starting off with large number of categories, we will slow down and come down to very less number of categories at the end. Okay. So I'm picking up the state variable from our data, given that this had a lot of states, right? So I'll be able to filter out some of the states at each of the level that I'll be, using for filtering. And along with states, of course, I'll need a numerical variable. So I am pulling up the state-wise sales so that I get a simple table. I'm fine with the table. I don't need the default bar graph that it has created. I'm fine with this simple text table where I get to see the total sales that each of the state is contributing to. Now, once this graph is ready, let me now move on towards how to filter the data. As I said, I'll be showing you how to filter on the basis of the categorical variable. Let me drag the state variable, which is the categorical variable in this case, and let me drop it onto the filters card. Now, this is the filters card where you can drop your variables such that you get those dialog boxes using which you can set certain options and you can decide how you would want to filter out the data. So as soon as I drop that state variable there, can you observe I got a filter box where there are 4 tabs which are available. First is the general tab, where you ideally get to see a list of all the values that were present in that variable. So you can see all of those states which are present in this report are also present in this particular list, and currently everything is selected, right? So no data has been filtered as such. You also have the wildcard tab, which allows you to pass some kind of pattern matching condition, just like you have in Excel. You have wildcard characters that you can use over here in order to filter out the data. You also have the condition tab, which allows you to pass a condition in order to filter out the data, and you can pass even more than one conditions to filter the data. And lastly, you also have the top tab, which allows you to get the top few or the bottom few kind of entries from the overall data. So we will try out each one of them on top of the others. Starting with the general tab, we will just try to, select multiple items from this list so that they will be filtered out and included into our graph, and the rest of them will be eliminated. Okay. So if you see right now, all of the states are selected, correct? So we have a quick option of, selecting none of them. So in this case, you can see everything has been unchecked. If you select all, you can again see the entire list has been populated. Now, one of the best options is, let's say you have hundreds of values, out of which you want to select 95. And there are only 5 values which you want to, ideally get rid of or filter out. That is where, you can select those 5 values. Let's say, for example, there are these certain states which I don't want to include. I can select them and then I can check the exclude option. What will happen is, if you see, these names have been striked out, which means what? These 4 values which I have selected will ideally be filtered out and the rest of them will be included. So if there are multiple values which you want to select and only a few which you want to filter out, you can use this exclude option, which could be beneficial. But for now, what I want to show you is how to select those various values and filter out the data here. So in this entire sheet, let me select a certain names. I'm just picking up certain values randomly over here. And you can see that it keeps on populating over here how many values have been selected out of the total 59 states that we have over here. Okay, so let me pick up certain names randomly and yeah, just hold on. Okay, I'm purposely selecting all the names which start with M. We will see what is the reason behind that. Okay, let me select a few more. And yeah, I think we are good to go. I've selected 40 out of the 59 values over here. And once we have selected, all I need to do is click on OK. And you will observe that my graph has reflected the change. Only those states which I had selected have been, populated into this graph, and the rest of them have been filtered out. So now, while I look at this sheet as a third person, I can see that in the filters card, there is the state variable present, which means what? The data that has been populated into this graph has been filtered out on the basis of state. But then, what if at the runtime, I want to, filter out some more states, or maybe I want to include some of the ones which I have filtered out. That is where I will need an interactive filter. What is an interactive filter? Interactive filter allows you to filter at the runtime, which is currently not possible because it's a static filter that we have applied and only those values which we selected are visible here. But in order to get an interactive filter, all you need to do is click onto this, and can you see this option, show filter? Just check this option. And what you will see is below show me, you get this list of all the states which are present in your actual data. So at the runtime, let's say you want to include British Columbia and let's say you want to exclude Delaware. You can easily do that by just checking or unchecking that particular state name. So this is how you can easily filter out the data at the runtime to, adjust the values that you want to include and reflect onto your graph. And this kind of interactive filter is not just applicable to this graph that we have created, but it can be applicable to all of the graphs that we would create later on. Okay. All right. Now that we have seen how to filter out on the basis of the general tab, let's try out the other options as well. So I can go on to this and I can say edit filter, and it will again give me the same dialog box which we had seen. Now this is the first filter which we have already applied, right? On top of that, I want to filter out on the basis of some wildcard pattern matching condition. So I'm on to the wildcard tab now, where it allows me to pass a pattern which can be matched at the runtime, and those values which match the pattern will be fetched and included into the graph. Let's say, for example, I want to include only those states which contain the letter I. I need to pass I over here and it will include all of those states that contain I. But You also have these other options like starts with, ends with, exactly matches. Although Tableau does not give you as much interactivity with respect to wildcard as much as SQL does, but it does give you these 4 options, which can, be very beneficial when you are working upon large number of values to be filtered out. So let's say I want to filter out those states where the name starts with M. Can you see I had taken a lot of entries where the name was starting with M. So I'll just pass that M here and I'll select the option starts with, and yes, this is where I am setting a pattern where the name of the state should start with M. It could be followed by any number of characters. So as soon as I click on apply, I want you to observe only those names which were starting with M are appearing here. And can you observe that interactive filter has now changed its look and feel? It's no longer a list of values, because out of the list of values that were selected, we have now applied a filter on top of that to indicate that I want only those states which are beginning with M. So M asterisk is the kind of filter that we have applied here, or the pattern that needs to be matched. Similarly, let's say if at the runtime I decide that I want to see all of the states that begin with N and not M, all I need to do is change that condition here for the pattern, and you will see these are the changes that we observe. So these were the states which were previously selected in that list where the names were starting with N. So all of those are being displayed over here. Similarly, if I want, the states which end with A, I'm passing asterisk A, and you can see out of the list where the names were selected, these were the few states where the names were ending with A. So it's up to us to, modify this pattern at the runtime based on our requirement. Okay. Let me change it back to M asterisk. And this is where we get to see those states which were beginning with M. Now, let's explore the third tab here, which is the condition tab. Currently, you can see none is selected, which means that none of the conditions are being applied. But in case you decide to apply a condition, you can select by field. By which field? By default, it will populate that variable which you had included into the graph. So given that we were looking at sum of sales for each of the state, it has automatically populated the same aggregation measure and the same numerical variable for us over here. And this is where you also have the button in order to load the minimum and maximum values of that variable, such that you get some help with respect to what should be the value for the condition that you are going to pass here. So let's say, for example, I load this. You can see the minimum sales is 132 and the maximum value is 6,71,595. So whatever condition I write can be written on the basis of this. But of course, in order to write the condition, you have the relational operators which you can make use of. But the main point that I would like to highlight is, it is nowhere a restriction that you should be writing the condition on the basis of the variable which has been included into the graph. You can use any other variable also. So even though you are displaying the values for sales, you can still filter it out on the basis of profit or any other variable for that matter. So suppose if I try to select the profit variable here and I try to load the values, can you see I'm getting the loss and the profit value here. Now based on this range, I can set the condition. So let's say the sum of profit is greater than or equal to 5,000. Okay, I'm just passing a number randomly. Let's see what is the result that we get. And I click on apply. You can see I'm getting 5 states out of the 8 to 9 states that we were getting previously. So this is where these are the states which were beginning with M also. You can see that condition being present here. And at the same time, these are the states which are also giving a profit which is greater than $5,000, right? So this is how you can set the condition easily and you can filter out your data. However, whenever you go with this kind of an approach, you can only, write the condition on the basis of a single variable, isn't it? What if you want to filter out on the basis of multiple variables? Okay, so that is where you can write your own formula, like a if-else statement. That is where you can write your own formula, like an if-else statement that we saw some time back while creating a calculated variable. So by formula is what I'm going to select here, and I'll start writing the conditions on the basis of which I want to filter out the data. So let's say if sum of sales is greater than let me put 25,000. I don't know the exact values, I'm just making up a scenario, and sum of profit is greater than or equal to, we had passed the condition as 5,000, right? Greater than or equal to 5,000. Let me make it greater than or equal to over here as well. Okay, so let me break this thing down. So I've written two conditions here, correct? The first condition is where I'm stating the sum of sales should be greater than 25,000, and the second one states that the sum of profit also should be greater than 5,000. And given that I'm using a logical AND operator, it means that only if both the conditions are being satisfied, only then the state will be filtered for me. So now that I click on apply, let's see, okay, something went wrong here. Okay, so sum of sales, okay, the round bracket after the profit variable was missing. Now that I have rectified it, okay, if requires a then statement. So it is suggesting me to either write the then statement, or else if I don't have the then statement, I can simply write the conditions. So now I have simply written the conditions here, and now when I click on apply, you will see that instead of the 5 states, there are only 4 states which are matching this conditions, where the sales is also greater than 25 and the profit that we have got is also greater than 5,000. Okay, so this is how you can make use of the condition tab over here, which will allow you to filter out the data. Let's click on the next tab, which is the top tab. This tab allows you to work upon getting the top few entries, like let's say the top 10 or the top 5, or in our case we have only 4 entries now, so let's say I want to get the top 3 records. You also have an option for bottom. So bottom 3 records, if you want, you can do that, but usually we prefer looking at the top few ones, right? So let's say instead of 10, I want to see the top 3. How? By sum of sales. I'm okay with this, but as you know, it gives you the option to select any other variable as well as the aggregation measure, right? For now, I'm fine with the sum of sales. So this is where out of these 4 states, we will be filtering out 3 states which give us the maximum sales. So once I click on apply, this is the 3 states. So this is where the condition of getting the highest sales has been met, and this is the set of results that we have got. So all in all, what I want you to realize is we have applied filters over filters. We started off with a general tab where there were several states that we tried to filter out. On top of which we tried applying a wildcard pattern matching condition, right, where we filtered out only those states where the state names begin with M. And then we tried to write a condition in order to filter out the data such that only those records which match the conditions are filtered out. And furthermore, we tried to get the top 3 records out of them. This is how you filter on the basis of a categorical variable. Now that we have seen how to make use of a categorical filter, let's try out another example where we will try to filter out the data again, but with the help of a numerical variable. So let me pull up some data once again, and this time let's take state-wise profit, okay? And maybe we could have, just duplicated the field map that we had created for this, but all right, I think this is ready. Let me just give some quick labels here, and let me also label on the basis of the state variable along with the profit variable. Okay, So this is the graph that we have. I'm not worrying about the colors as of now. I'm fine with the default color palette that it has chosen for me. But this is the data that I have. Now, I want to filter out the data on the basis of a numerical variable, right? Which is the numerical variable here? The profit. So this time when I drag the profit variable onto the filters card, you will see that the look and feel of the dialog box starts changing, because the options that you had in order to filter out a categorical variable will not be the same in case of a numerical variable, right? So the first thing that it is asking me is to decide what aggregation measure should be used. Of course, I want to go with sum of profit because I was working upon sum of profit as the variable. So let me select that and let me click on to the next button. And yes, this is the dialog box that you get when you are trying to filter out the data on the basis of a numerical variable. The first option here is the range of values, where you can see the entire slider is selected. You can see the minimum value and the maximum value being listed here, isn't it? So currently the entire data is chosen. But suppose you want to filter out certain data, you can decide where this slider should be adjusted. So suppose in between range is what you want, or maybe you want to start a little later but you want to go till the very end. You can do that by adjusting this slider. But adjusting this slider could at times be very tricky, right? So what you can instead do is you can pass a value here. Let's say, for example, I want to see only those states which are giving me a profit in the range of 5,000 to maybe, let's say 50,000. Okay, I'm just making up some numbers. But once I click on this, can you see these are the only states where the profit is ranging between 5,000 to 50,000. If you want, feel free to increase that range. So let's say I want to see from 5,000 to up to 1 lakh. And when I click on apply, you can see Washington is the other one that got added here. So this is where I am passing a range, a lower value as well as a larger value in order to decide what should be the start and the end of that range. But you also have at least, in order to indicate that the minimum sale, the minimum profit that I have should be so much. So currently 5,000 is the value selected, but let's say I want to display only those states which are giving me some sort of profit. I don't want to include the ones which are giving me loss. In this scenario, what I can do is I can set the sum of profit minimum value as 1, which means at least some profit is what the state is giving me, correct? At least $1 should be the profit. If I apply this, you can see these many are the states which are giving me the profit. Similarly, you have at most. If you want to see all the states which are giving you loss, you can set the at most value to 1 and you will see only those states which are giving you the losses. So these are the states where you can see Texas is the state that gives you the maximum loss here, correct? But it's not always to see the loss values, okay? You can set the value here. Let's say, for example, you want to typically see those states which are giving you only up to 10,000 as the profit. Set that value, click on apply, and you will see that these are the states which are giving you a profit of less than 10,000. Now there could be losses or there could be profit also, but up to 10,000 is the value that is present in the sum of profit variable. So this is how you can make use of the at most tab. And then there is a special category also present, which is mainly just to consider whether or not to include the null values or just focus on the non-null values. Currently, I don't think my data has null values, but in case you have a data set where you're working upon null values, you may require to select all of these kind of options as well. Let's say whether you want all the values or whether you just want to focus on the non-missing kind of values in order to generate the graph. So that is what this special tab over here helps you with. So you can, as I said, decide what should be the range that you would like to select, based on which you can filter out the data into your graph. So I'm just changing the condition back to 5,000 to 1 lakh, and that is where I get to see that these are the states which are giving me that profit in the range of 5,000 to up to 51,215. So we don't really have any state that gives us up to 1 lakh. It's just 51,215, which is the maximum profit that we have. All right. So this is how you can filter out your data on the basis of a numerical variable. So we saw how the dialog boxes, kind of change, and the options also that are available change as we move from a categorical filtering to a numerical filtering. But here also we can create an interactive filter. Okay. So if you just go on to this and again select that show filter, you will see a slider appears because it's a numerical range, right? So a slider will appear here, which you can adjust at the runtime in order to, decide what should be the value that you should be, choosing for that. But again, adjusting the slider at times becomes a little tricky. A better option is you type in the value here. Let's say instead of 5,000, you want to include only those states where the starting value is 7,000 going up to 1 lakh. Just pass the value and you hit enter, and you will see if there are any changes that are supposed to be made onto the graph. Okay. So this is how you can filter out the data easily with the help of just dragging and dropping the variables and, choosing the right set of values and displaying only those values which you would like the audience to focus upon. And having said that, let me also add that there is no such restriction that you can, probably filter out the data on the basis of only one variable at a time. Okay. So let's say, for example, if we again, let's just take a look at this particular graph itself. Currently, we had filtered out the data on the basis of the profit that the states were contributing to, correct? But let's assume I want to also filter out the data on the basis of a particular category. What if I want to present this report only to the furniture related products or the categories? So the stakeholders who are going to view this report would ideally be interested in only the profit related to furniture, right? And not related to the office supplies or the technology, because that makes no sense to them. So that is where you can filter out on the basis of another variable. I'm just dragging the category variable for now, and you will see that it again gives me this same categorical filter dialog box where you can see furniture, office supplies and technology. Currently, all of the values have been included into the graph because there was no filter applied. But now that I decide that I only want to see the furniture related values, I'll click on apply and you will see the values change. So previously there were a lot of states which were giving us the profit, right? But now that we have filtered out on the basis of furniture alone, you can see it is only California, Washington and New York which are giving me at least some amount of profit. So this is how you can apply multiple filters and you can, build the final visual that you would like to display to the audience. So no restriction in terms of the number of variables that you are using in order to filter. If you want to make this also as an interactive filter, show filter. And you can then adjust the values at the runtime. Let's say I also want to include technology. I will just select that option and I'll be able to include those set of values into, the graph that we are trying to look at. So this is how you can filter the data on the basis of the categorical as well as the numerical variables. Now, once you are done building all of the graphs onto various different sheets. If you see, we have currently populated at least 20 sheets over here, and we have different types of graphs and charts on each and every one. When you try to hover over these graphs, you get to see a kind of thumbnail which will tell you about what is present onto that graph. If at all there are any extra sheets like this, feel free to delete them. And there are certain names which, or let's say certain sheets which were duplicated, so the names are not very meaningful. If you want to go and change the title of each and every graph, which ideally should be the right practice, please ensure that you are naming the graphs meaningfully. and you can also change the sheet name, and automatically your title for the graph will also reflect the same. So you can make those changes in order to make your workbook become more readable to any other third person with whom you will be sharing this workbook, right? So once you have created all of these sheets, it is time that you save your work, because tomorrow when you are working on this file again, you might wish to create some meaningful or beautified dashboards out of all of these sheets, right? So that is where you'll have to ensure that you are saving your work, because we would want to continue into the same workbook in order to create the dashboard or even the story which is actually presented to the audience as a final thing. Now, with respect to saving the file, there is one quick pointer that I would like to highlight here. When we spoke about the introduction to Tableau, I had mentioned about the packaged and the non-packaged workbooks. And while you try to save your file, you get that option in order to save it, where you can specify the name, and you can also specify the extension of that file. So there are two major extensions that you'll find over here. The .twb is for the non-packaged workbook, which means that when you share this twb file with anyone, that person should have the underlying data such that he can connect to that data and he can easily modify the workbook that you have shared. Whereas the twbx extension is a non-packaged is a packaged workbook, whereas the .twbx is a packaged workbook, which means what? That you are bundling the data along with the work that you have created, and then you are sharing it with someone. So the person who is going to receive this file need not have the actual data with him. Since the data is bundled along with the work, he will be able to access that data and will be able to edit the file, or whatever things have been implemented into that workbook. So currently I am selecting the .twbx file, and the name that I have given over here is Superstore Analysis. Let me create a fresh file over here. _1 is what I've added there, and I'm saving it. And you can see that this is a saved file now. So after some time, or maybe a couple of days later, while I decide to work upon building some meaningful dashboards with the help of these graphs and charts, I can easily do that, because all of these sheets will be available over here for me to use. Now that we have observed a lot of things related to the features of Tableau, functionalities that we can use in order to build and customize all of these visuals, and we have also seen how to work upon the calculations and filtering the data, etc. We are aware of how to work at the sheet level.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment on the concept you want to learn next.